Dude, I've not been sharing my screen this whole time. Fuck. Okay, another scuffed ass stream. Another scuffed stream. Another scuffed stream. Crap. Oh, I keep doing this. I keep doing this. Um all right. And this is I guess the problem with not having any viewers is because people don't watch it. All right. So, these are the two designs I have. And I guess I'm gonna have to delete this stream actually and start over. So let me go ahead and stop streaming and start streaming again. Okay, everyone. Um, okay, I just streamed for like an hour and it was completely scuffed because I was just showing my webcam because I don't know what I'm doing. Just I guess too old for this stuff. So basically, I started with this app design, and I'm just focusing on the mobile version now, and I've been in Figma for about an hour just trying to get this as far as I can, and as close to real as I can. And so, if you don't know, so my goal here, by the way, is to I want to do like a different vibe coding application every day just to see how good each one is. So far, what's cool about Figma is that you can just take a frame and paste it in and say, here's what I want this to do. So at the beginning, I said, as a user, I expect a mixer style interface, 12 different looping white noise sounds to be able to mute and unmute each channel. And so I had these different states, which by the way, are now gone. So I had like different icons. I'll come back to that. I had different icons for each of these states. It wasn't just grayed out, but there was a slightly different icon. But to be able to save configurations, which I now can after a few iterations. So, if I wanted to save one for, I don't know. So the idea of a sailing boat is probably just that it's like, so this one I'm expecting something like Sea Wharf or something like that, something where it's, like, or Coastal Calm. I mean, that's a great name for it. Okay. So now let's close this. Okay. We got Coastal Calm. Let's do Storm Hideout. So you see a different saved thing, Windy Retreat. Retreat, you got a different one. So, it's doing a decent job of these things. Now, I did try and have it generate some audio files. It might be able to do it, but it was so scuffed. I did not want to do it on stream. So, a little bit confused with that. It's also not responsive or anything like that. I couldn't get it to, really match things pixel by pixel at all. It just, I don't know. It does what it wants to do on that front. Um, Also, I originally had used Font Awesome icons. It couldn't outline those by itself. I had to go in and outline it. I have these components built. So there's been a lot of fiddling, which is fine. There should be in complex work like this. It's totally fine that there's been a lot of fiddling to do. I have no problem with that. Um, but let's see. Overall thoughts at this point. I mean, come on. Should be using a different icon. Oh, okay, that's right. I just had to update that manually in the designs. I had to like go into it and switch it down here. There's definitely ways around that, but it wasn't worth it. Also, some things is I only had these base screens. I didn't want to try and design the screen. I wanted to see what the application came up with. It's fine. It kind of did what I asked it to do, but I think what's great about it is I told it what I wanted it to do, and now that it's generated something, I know exactly how I would change things. So I'm not really doing it from scratch, which I guess is one of the big benefits of vibe coding is that you don't have to research and look at how other people have done this. It just kind of looks at other applications and figure out how they've done it, and then you have a place to start. So that's both quote unquote good because as a small business owner that's great because you save a lot of time doing that research, etc. But I think for um, for the world, it's not necessarily better because now if people address things that way, then I think you're going to have less innovation. Maybe you'll have more. Maybe because we'll have like a higher standard, people have more to innovate off of because you won't be trying to meet that standard so hard. You're just able to like take what exists and like build off of it. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where that ends up. The idea of vibe coding and AI for all this stuff is something I'm still trying to figure out my opinions on and what I think about. And I think we all are. Okay, so this is currently where it's at. I wish that I would just get decent at, not forgetting these things. But here we are. Here we are. Let's see. What else is there to do? Oh, I think I mentioned this that I did use it to generate audio files. And where I was at when I did this was that I've been looking in Chat GPT just to see if it can handle that if it has any ideas for this. So I said, is there an AI free tool where I can generate 30-second audio clips of nature sounds? In realistic, like I would want these sounds to be minutes long because I think that your brain can start to tell when it's hearing the same things over and over. And I also would not want them to be the same length. So if one is like 6 minutes and one is 8 minutes and one is 12 minutes, then you're never going to get the same exact mixture. You're not going to have sounds overlap at the same points ever. And so, or even if they're only 30 seconds off, it's better than to have things exactly the same length, which is just an interesting topic. Okay. Um, 11 Labs sound effects. I gotta make a site like this. Oh, here you go. Pop up AI sound effect generator. Okay. So I don't exactly know how audio is translated in here. So I may have to do some fiddling with OBS off stream to figure out how to show audio. I was thinking about getting somebody to generate these sounds off of Fiverr. I have a feeling that even if I say specifically these cannot be AI generated sounds, that they're going to be AI generated sounds. It's that somebody is just going to do that. Temporarily unavailable. Okay, what was the other option? Loud me AI sound effect generation. All right. I simulate a looping sound effect of gentle rain, ideally with no. See, I don't like signing up for this stuff on stream. Okay, so maybe I will. Ooh, see, would love to have this super strict. I don't really like super creative things. I mean, I love super creative things. I just don't like I don't like when AI vary too much. I know exactly what I want and I try and give very specific prompts. And a lot of times AIs, will like take a lot of creative liberty with things, which frankly I'm just not a fan of. That's not how I operate. I tend to be like very specifically know exactly what I want and tell them what I want. And they're not usually capable of doing it because they're based on, the average. They're based on the most mediocre. I don't know if there's anything else to cover today. I think that off stream, I will probably trying to figure out the sounds so that we can start loading these into different apps. Overall, what would be fun is if I did some sort of rating system for these different apps to see how good each one is. So, what should some criteria be? Say like specificness of prompt of prompt. Come on, Figma, you're so. Come on, Figma, you're so slow. Come on, come on. Let me rename the scene. The scene. All right. I don't know how I feel about this one. Because I don't really like a ton of suggestions. Um, maybe one is called prompt. One is called let's call it problem solving. Let's see. I think I had other criteria in my head. I mean, I had other criteria in my head. What were they? Is the stream stuck? Testing 1, 2. Okay. No, I don't think it's stuck. I think my browser is just stuck. Um. All right. What was I working on? Okay. How well does it solves problems? Flexibility. Is it able to solve problems outside of code, visual trends. How well can it match a how well can it come up with a nice. This should be 2 parts. I think I'm okay with this being 2 parts, maybe. No, let's make it separate. So I had to kill the stream because there was a bunch of white noise coming through for me. I guess it wasn't for you guys, but as soon as I turned the audio on, it just got real bad. And I thought that it might be coming through the stream, but thankfully it wasn't. So yeah, that's great news. Okay, so let's keep going on rating the Figma design here, or Figma Make. Able to solve problems outside of code. I mean, we're going to give this a 2 out of 7. Like, there's no way that it could have actually generated usable files. But on the other hand, that's not the goal, is to treat final files. It's to get things to a decent enough state that something else could have. You know what we haven't asked it to do? It also didn't use good icons when it had to grab them. Specifically, you know, I asked it to give it an update icon and it used refresh, which is just, it's not the same. Like, it's not the close to the same. So those things do matter. Okay, design translation. How well does it translate an existing design? I can't give it more than a 3 out of 7. Like, it's still, like, I think that's going to be the highest one by a long shot. But it kept making mistakes. It kept undoing things that I asked it to do, and it can't get the spacing right. Plus, I have a feeling that its responsiveness is trash. Like 3 out of 7. It's very nice that it can generate a design from a Figma frame, but the final output has a lot to be desired. Design generation, how? So this is where I think it actually did a better job. Specifically, you know, so there were a lot of issues with the translation of the design itself. Right, so this is what it looked like originally. And come on, load. This is what it looked like originally. I'm just checking to make sure that it doesn't dump the audio feed. Okay, it's not. Alrighty. So, and then, so yeah, original versus what it did. But what it did do a better job of was, you know, this looks nicer. It also looks like very corporate, but it looks nicer. But it also doesn't match like the existing style. So that's a little complex. You know, does it understand existing styles? Can it build off of them? So um it also didn't build off of the designs I had created when creating new New component, whatever. So actually, out of 7, is that too generous? Like, I'm a very harsh grader. Like, I feel like too many people grade on a curve. And I actually think this is graded a bit on a curve as it is. Like, I think these should all be lower, but um, if I did it where I think it should be, it would be like, you know, 2.41. So I guess we'll grade it on a little bit of a curve to begin with. So, obviously the opportunity is there, but none of these are where they need to be. Like, I don't know why people keep going on and on about this replacing designers. Like, these for like final designs. It's nowhere close, you guys. All right, design generation. So this is where I'm like, okay, I came up with a pretty nice looking design from scratch. This is actually probably going to be the highest score. The modal actually has a decent looking design. However, it looks super corporate. It looks formal. We'll just say it looks formal when what we are creating has a simpler vibe. So actually, we're going to knock this down to 4 because it couldn't pick up the correct vibe. I mean, should it be a 3? We're going to up this to a 4. We're going to turn this down to a 3. Oh, goodness. I'm like going back and forth on like where my standard is. Generated design from a Figma frame. Like, that is really nice. But it's not like what I can never launch this. I would still have to go into the code and do a bunch of edits in order to get this well. So yeah, design translation 3 out of 7, design generation 4 out of 7. I just have a feeling that if I was to do this from scratch and let it do the design, that it actually might do a better job. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should do that right now, actually. Let's rate the code first. The code, I mean, 2 out of 7, right? Is it rewrites the code constantly rather than creating, even for something as simple as a color opacity SVG change. What else? I mean, my React coding knowledge is not the highest, but we have all these wrapper numbers, it doesn't name things well, even though like one of the whole things about Figma now is that you're supposed to be able to go in and be like, hey, name all these frames for me, so if I went into rectangle or here, like I could be like, I think there's a way, rename layers. Yeah. So, right. And the fact that it can't do that in here, I guess it's just using Claude, but disappointing. So I mean, I think also like this is just like you'd have to rewrite, I think, everything from pretty much from scratch if you wanted something really solid. And also I can't just like, this should be like icon rain, capitalized, like it's not even following consistent cases. Yeah, I'm gonna give this a really low one. I don't expect any of these to get over a 2, by the way, though. Like I don't. I think the code is absolutely gonna be trash. Now, again, this is from the perspective of someone who, I'm not primarily a coder, right? I could code this out from scratch. It would take me some time. It would take me some like help from, Claude or Chat GPT or whatever. But the way I would be doing it wouldn't be to like, here, write this whole thing. I would be creating components and then having it help me write the individual components, like the functionality behind it. So the styling I could all do, and then I would be asking it for like help with writing specific functions, like where to load the audio files, etc. So compared to that, which my code would probably be like a 5 out of 7, this, or my code would probably be like a 4 out of 7. I think most devs would look at it and be like, this is trash. This should be a 1 out of 7, frankly. But we'll leave it at a 2 out of 7 just because I think they're all going to be like 2 out of 7. So, yeah, once again, this is, despite, my best efforts, it is rated on something of a curve. You know what? I'm just going to knock everything down 1 point so that we get less of the curve rating. And we can go in and adjust this later. We can create a different scoreboard later. So I think overall my takeaway is that it's actually better at design than it is at code, which I think is interesting. Okay, let's go ahead and dive in and do that other version. So let's create a new make file. And I'm dying here. If you've watched any of my older stuff, I was sick there before, and now I'm sick again. Okay, create an app with 12 channels, each of them a nature sound. The user can mix these channels together. They can mute. Each channel will have an icon and a volume slider, a vertical volume slider. Mix each channels together. Overall, it should look like an audio mixer, but maybe gentler to fit the theme of the nature theme. Like listening to, for each channel, they can click on the icon to mute that channel. There is also a horizontal master volume slider at the bottom with a volume icon. Tapping the icon mutes/unmutes the entire app. Also, there is a save button where the configuration are saved once. When clicking save, a modal pops up that allows you to create a new scene or update an existing scene. The new scene will have a name suggested by AI that matches what sliders are active/unmute. And the name of the scene should appear at the top. Clicking on it will open up a list of all scenes. Each scene will have an update or trash icon next to them. Okay, that I think is pretty comprehensive. So let's see what it what it comes up with Actually, let's look at the code it's generating. So interesting. So it's grabbing some emoji. That's cool. It's creating a function. So grabbing the sound. Oh, it's rewriting it. That's fine. It's fine to rewrite it the first couple times. It's when it like rewrites the code every time you make a small change that is a waste. And I mentioned this on the original stream that I completely messed up because I was not showing the work I was doing. I was just showing my webcam. But when we look at stuff like this, like Microsoft mentioned lately that, or recently, that 30% of their code is now AI generated. Here's the thing. This AI generation is generating way more code than a developer would. Like 4 or 5 times as much code, maybe a lot more than that, because it's like rewriting it over and over. It's not um, really writing things in like a dry methodology, just don't repeat yourself. It's not doing it in a really concise way. It's just like kind of brute forcing things. So when somebody like Microsoft says it's generating 30% of the code, well, maybe you're just generating 30% more code or 50% more code, or however you translate that into 30% of the total. Maybe you're just generating that much more code. It also doesn't account for the idea of like a bunch of code being generated that then has to be refactored later. So it doesn't account for that. So, you might generate a bunch of code and then it gets refactored, and the refactoring doesn't count as coding because you're just refactoring and you're actually trimming a lot of stuff out. So that would count as AI code towards your total, not dev written code towards your total. So when you hear numbers like that, be super cautious about it, because it's frankly just a load of bullshit when people say stuff like that. Like it's not nuanced. It doesn't tell the whole story. It's just a number somebody's throwing out that supports the decisions that they are making. It's so much more complicated than that. All right, let's see where we are. Done. How does this look? It's a fuzzy hello world. What the heck? Let's refresh it. Hello. I have to refresh the entire tab. Okay. Apparently I have unsaved changes. Come on. Come on. Okay. See, I mean, this does look pretty cool. So I mean, I don't like that it switches them up and down, but let's see what happens. So nature's, where does save scene go? Night sound soundscape, that sounds good. Create scene. Save successfully. Now we can do raindrops. Oh my goodness. See, this doesn't feel super comfortable. The fact that I have to do it, I have to unmute it first. But I feel like I could coach it past that. What are we at now? I said I was going to do this for 2 hours. I think honestly, most days 1 hour is going to be more realistic, but goodness. So, I did like an hour before that was completely scuffed. Yeah, let's save a new scene. Fireside Calm. I mean, it's pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. Like when you do it from scratch, it's pretty cool. So again, I will have to generate these audio files separate. Let's do a couple things. I need a better indicator whether a channel is muted or not. I'd like the sliders be chunkier and to have a nice big clickable area. I want to, if I drag a, be able to drag a, it's all functional. Yeah, so I would up the like generative side on this because I do think it does a pretty good job of doing things from scratch. I still hate the design choices it makes, you know. Um, I don't think they're good. Clearly, everything's super formal. So I might downgrade the design, the generative design it does, because clearly it just wants to make things like really, you know, basic. But I might up the, you know, like generative problem solving because I do think it's doing a pretty good job of that. Let's see if it's done. Is it done writing code? No, it's still writing code. Okay. Preemptively. Yeah, I mean, I still think 3 out of 10 is right. Design generation 3 out of 7. Yeah, that's how I feel. I mean, this is making me feel like those grades are even more specific, like are even more appropriate. Like the grades I already gave it feel even better. Oh my goodness! See, like now we're looking at some goof ass shit. So actually, do I downgrade this? I'm gonna downgrade it. Like it's just wonk. I can't figure out how to do things correctly. The only reason this is getting a 2 is because it can like generate it from a Figma frame. Like that's just so nice. And like now, does it even work? Yeah, but like I mean, I still have all the same frustrations. So I mean, I think this is it. Like this is like maybe you could get something usable out of this, but uh I almost want to give it a even lower score. I mean, I have a feeling that most of them are going to be like this for real. Like I just think they're probably going to be crap. And here's the thing is that I've played around with this sort of stuff before and it's like you can spend hours and things just tend to get worse. Like the first thing they generate is tends to be the best. So like design generation, at least it like solves some of the problems all right. Do I give it a 3? Okay, so that would be problem solving. Yeah, it doesn't do a good. We'll give it a 3 for problem solving, but man, at following prompts, like I almost want to give it a 1. It does a good job at the beginning, but then like it's almost like there's initial prompts where it does a pretty good job, and then there's like modification, like steering prompts. Let's call them steering prompts. It's like a 1 out of 7. I'm sorry, and I think all of these are going to be a 1 out of 7 to be honest. And just the truth is, the more you steer it, the worse the solution tends. But you know what? I'm actually going to be fair to it, because on the other one that I did, like where I gave it a pre-made design, it was much more steerable actually. But then it reverted some of those changes. Whatever. I'm gonna leave it at 2 out of 7. I mean, what's our aggregate score here? So 4 plus 2 plus 3 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1, 15. 15 divided by what? How many do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 15 divided by 7. Score of, that can't be right. Is it going to be a fraction like that? Yeah, sure. 2.14. 2.14 out of 7. Now, again, I'm a super harsh grader. I know most people would not grade it this harsh, but I'm not grading this based on like, oh, how much, like, I'm not grading this on a curve. I'm grading this based on like, how good is this going to be at, essentially replacing the whole process like people are saying it's supposed to. Like, we are still way far away. And frankly, I think that this might be a little bit generous. Now, where I do see the code being useful is at solving more specific problems and giving you an idea about how to solve more specific problems. But when you talk about just generating something from scratch, it's like, not a fan, frankly. I'm just not a fan. So I think that's going to be it for this stream. This was fun. So I don't know. I'm thinking trying Lovable next. I have a feeling that it's going to be exactly the same, frankly. Another option is that I could take all this code and like paste it into Cursor or something and see if I can get it where I need it to be. I don't know. This whole thing is just an exploration, but I would at least like to try Lovable. I think it was pretty much the same experience as this, but I think they've been at it longer, so maybe it's more mature than what Figma has. But I think that's it for today. My voice is worn out.